the network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
And welcome to EdTech, your monthly your monthly higher ed related podcast. I'm Bill O'Donnell, your host. I'm joined with Ernie Bailey.
Good morning.
And Mr. Mike Tomei.
Hey guys, how's it going?
And with us, we always have Tim in the background. So first story. Let's see here. It is by. It's a report on how the LED displays have actually surpassed LCDs in the small to medium display market. Mike, any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I think the article is really touching on kind of mobile devices and how they're using the OLED technology versus LCD. I think, if I'm correct, iPhone is still holding out for LCD, but as far as classroom displays and relating all that to what we do, most of the displays I'm still speccing are all LED displays. In the classrooms, no real LCDs and definitely no plasmas anymore. But the whole OLED concept to me is nice. Anything to get displays thinner, I'm in support of. We always have to fight with the aesthetic qualities of classrooms and architects and wanting thin displays and smaller bezels and that sort of thing.
You have like architects who always want to have, we want it to be flush against the wall, and God help us if there's a display manufacturer, whether it's NEC or Samsung or what have you. If they at least are smart enough to put it along the sides, which I've seen NEC most times usually has like their HDMI and all their other inputs along the sides.
Yep.
But if it's back, you better hope that someone spec'd in a back box, because otherwise it's gonna be painful.
Yeah, exactly. And then the whole ADA standards of protruding objects from the wall. You can only have 4 inches off the wall, and then you're out of ADA standards at that point. So thinner displays is the way to go.
Are you guys then also, when you're trying to spec like, in say Milestone's case, the thin stall mounts, or are those more pain than what they're worth?
Yeah, I mean, if I can physically recess a screen in a wall, like if it's new construction and I can talk to an architect and actually physically, recess it in the wall, then that's the easiest way to do it. But yeah, even the thin mounts, like you're saying, you just have no room behind these things for connectors, for power. Mm-hmm. If your outlet gets placed in the wrong spot, and now you're slamming up against the back of the mount and the display. We'll talk a little bit about these boxes you can kind of recess in the wall for power and data to take care of that. So.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing, because when I first started out in the industry, they would actually a lot of times we would actually specify into electricians to put in a clock receptacle, and I remember looking at the first time going, what was this, the weirdest thing? Yeah. And it's because it was a recessed single outlet, which was great if you were just hooking up the TV and you were running the good old RGBHV cable. So but these days it's it's how much can we cram behind the wall? Right. Yeah. Ernie, any comments?
Well, along with Mike there, we're not putting plasmas or LCDs in classrooms anymore. We're putting LEDs. We have not gone to the OLEDs yet. Just, I haven't seen those that fit in my budget and, that I could really justify putting in. We've been hearing this for years and years at Infocom, that we're going to be seeing these paper thin roll up TVs that we can just, tape onto the walls. And I think we're finally starting to see some of them come up that are getting close to that. They're much thinner. Finally,
yeah.
finally coming up to the promise they made us, 10 years ago?
Yeah, I mean, at Infocom this past year, I think LG actually was putting out how they had wallpaper style LEDs. Although oddly enough, in that same booth, they were really hyping, "Hey, check out the curved displays!" And by that we mean, you can make an archway out of these things.
Yeah.
Which is really cool. Why you would do that, I'm not really totally certain.
But you can.
You can.
There's always this push with the LEDs of it's gonna be dual-sided, or it's gonna be transparent. I mean, last year at the NEC showcase in New York, they showed a transparent LED display. Now, mind you, it was everything. You could see through the display. However, everything around it was draped in more pipe and drape curtain than you could ever imagine, and they had, it was one of those. Oh, I wonder how this is working, and they were very nice about things, but they said, "Oh no, please don't touch." So you don't get, no one gets to see what the wizard is doing there.
Right.
So,
I'm sure there'll be cool digital signage applications for that sort of like curved or flexible screens, but I don't know. In the classroom setting right now, it's not justified in my mind. So
it's unless you're over at like the School of Visual Arts or FIT or something like that. It's kind of hard to imagine that.
Yeah.
Right.
So speaking of displays and there, as I say, and the like, Mill Atlantic at CEDIA actually displayed their behind the display. Well, they actually put out their own wall box series. So it's kind of interesting. Middle Atlantic is starting to get into the display mount, as well as the recessed wall boxes. It's kind of interesting. Ernie, what do you have to say?
Well, I haven't actually seen this box, but I'm a big fan of Middle Atlantic's above ceiling boxes, and this looks like they just turned it on its side pretty much. I mean, their lever lock tools have been great, for setting things up. They think about how our techs are going to be using this box and how they're going to have to get to things. So I like that. It looks like this box is big enough to work with. I've gotten some of these boxes in the past, and I try to put like a Crestron scaler inside it, and it will fit, but you can't put your connectors on it.
It's I've seen it where some folks go, "Oh, you can put all this into it." Yeah, if you have 0-point connectors, or if you're using right angle HDMI plugs, because those work so well.
Yeah. But this one looks like it's thought out. Like I said, Middle Atlantic usually does that with their products. So I would be interested in seeing this right now. We're just having a hole cut in the wall, basically behind the TV, and recessing power and data, and then give me room to run all my cables through it. So I like that to provide protection for the equipment.
The thing I like about this is the fact that they actually integrated in their lever lock technology.
Yes.
And if anything, with Middle Atlantic, there's never really a time where they've like rushed something out the gate. This is something that obviously they've been looking at for a good while. They've been working it through. I'm liking what they're going with, especially because they have a very well developed power system with their own Middle Atlantic power products and everything. It's going to be interesting, mostly because just from the features that are in it, it's different enough that you're going to probably see some folks from Milestone looking and going, "Okay, how do we up our game with this?"
Yes.
So it's an interesting back and forth. I'm sorry, Mike. What's go ahead.
Yeah. So I like these boxes all the time when I install flat panels. I've been speccing the chief versions or FSR versions of these for a while now, and it gives a great place for to land your power outlet and data connections in there. Like Ernie mentioned, for a while there, it was tough to get a DM scaler into the smaller boxes, and especially when they went up to this new 4K scaler, which is wider or longer.
Oh, the big candy bar?
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
so definitely pay attention to like your connector sizes, like you guys were saying, your cable bend radius. Just because the device fits in there doesn't mean that its power supply, you know, that its transformer will fit in there too. You have to cram a lot of things into these boxes. So I definitely like to spec the larger boxes. And some people will throw an Apple TV in there if it's just kind of like a little huddle space type setup, or maybe put an Air Media in there or some other wireless device. So I like this Middle Atlantic box with all of these brackets and mounting plates that you can put in there, because that's always the hard part, is getting your device.
It's nice because you can actually stagger it a little bit, where you go, all right, here in the back here is going to be the and I think you can see it in the original promo photo. In the back there's a little 2 outlet surge protector, and then on the top you could have say your Air Media or your Solstice Pod or whatever unit, whatever wireless presentation flavor you like.
Yeah. It's still hard to get to the equipment back there, though. If you're using, especially we were talking about thin mounts, if you're using a really thin mount, like just say a tilting mount on the wall, sometimes it's tough to get to that equipment in a pinch. So Ernie had mentioned the ceiling boxes, and I've seen people installing those above the displays for their equipment and then running cables down. So it's easier to hop up on a ladder and get to that equipment than try to get behind those displays sometimes to those boxes. So
yeah, no, it's very true, especially because in Middle Atlantic's case, I think it looks like a lot of times their products, while it initially looks cool, it definitely seems to have more of the, okay, we don't want our integrators to go completely insane trying to fit 10 pounds of what into a 5-pound bag.
Yeah.
So I can definitely appreciate it and understand why, say like in Ernie's case, why we're doing a ceiling box when you look and say, well, can't we just put it in a back box? Well, we can, but it's a matter of, how much scraping and screaming and cursing do you want to do before you, get the display off the wall? Because I will admit, the thin stall mounts can be a real pain to actually get off the wall if they're in static. Trying to get your fingers behind there, it's one of those, you're kind of reaching up, and it brings you back to the days of watching guys try to reach up into a vending machine and try to get the candy bar.
Yeah, that's exactly. You're gonna have carpal tunnel by the time you're done trying to do that. So, yeah. So
it's one of those things. Like in our case, we actually try to spec the thin stall pull-out mounts.
Yeah.
Simply because it's just one of those things where here we can still push it flush against the wall or push it as close to the wall as possible. But if we have to do any service or anything like that, here it is, put it back in place. Have a nice day.
Yeah, definitely much easier when that mount pulls out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We actually had a recent issue with our contractor because we're renovating one of our oldest buildings, and they decided to spec in 90-inch displays, and we only have a staff of maybe about 4 people. And I said it would take all 4 people for them to take it off of a tilt wall mount of a 90-inch display in case there's anything wrong. I'm like, can we just put this on a pull out? Oh, we have to reinforce the wall and this and that. And I went, yes. Do you want to hire 4 additional people for when this display has issues? No. All right, we'll go put it on.
If you're hanging a 90-inch PV, you're probably going to have to put some enforcement in the wall anyway.
Oh yeah, no, they believe me, they had to, believe me, we did the math. The wall itself has to be reinforced to hold about 1,300 pounds.
Yeah.
So the architects didn't believe it when I said you have to put a steel plate in. They went, no, we don't. I'm like, oh yeah, here's Chief's actual structural guidelines with this. Now, if you want, you can go have a structural engineer sign off on this.
Yeah.
So they quieted it up real quick after that.
Yeah. On this box, going back to one thing you mentioned a while ago, is you say Milestone and some of the other people are probably going to be looking at this saying, what can we do to up our game? I'm for anytime we see that, because that just makes it better for us as users and integrators. If our suppliers are fighting with each other to make the best product, we're gonna keep getting better better.
Oh yeah, no, competition definitely drives innovation. In that, I won't lie. For the longest time, I can remember that I've usually, if I've been an integrator or an end user, if it's a mount, it's probably been Chief. If it's been a rack, it's probably been Middle Atlantic.
Yes.
Now, is there anything wrong with either one of them? No, believe me, they both do. They both make very good products, and they're very good at it. But every now and then, it is good to have another company kind of come in and say, "Well, this is how we do it, and we actually figured out it's easier to do this than that." And all of a sudden, everyone has to up their game. Unlike, say, Biamp and Crestron or QSC. Cough, cough.
I think in new construction, typically the electricians are the people that are purchasing and installing this box because a lot of it is touching what they're doing with the outlet or data connections, and the whole Legrand connection with Middle Atlantic. Electricians are they've been using Legrand items for years. Maybe Raceway, things like that, and they're probably pretty comfortable speccing and buying that and getting good deals on it. So.
Yeah, and if anything, I've seen this is actually what's caused. I think Milestone to do a partnership. I believe they partnered with Surgex. So if you've seen some of the new pack boxes, they actually have models where there's a Surgex outlet strip built into the box. Yep. Which saves time with everybody, makes life kind of puts the integrators a little at ease, and that hey, instead of the the $2,000 display taking a hit, it's the $50 outlet that can be easily replaced.
Yeah.
So yeah, that aside, like you said, Ernie, it's a good thing when I think you have two big companies like this starting to kind of move into each other's realms. It's gonna drive some innovations. Yeah. So lastly but not leastly, the IoT. There's an article talking about obviously the Internet of Things. Infocom has been talking about this recently, and Mike, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely not an expert on this whole concept, but people talk about the Internet of Things. They talk about connection of all these different devices to a network, but there's a whole nother component of it is the collection of data from those devices, sensors in the devices, kind of sending data to these storage sites and then using that data in some sort of way. And the AV world has been kind of embracing that concept for a while, trying to connect all of our equipment to networks and being able to do remote monitoring and control and troubleshooting, that sort of thing.
Okay, well, I think to me at least, the Internet of Things is kind of making people more aware of you can have say your refrigerator hooked up to the network, which is unique. But the idea of it is that I think it's really more of folks who are starting to understand more of there's going to be more metrics about things, and I know that's always been a wonderful world, at least in the higher ed world of where are the metrics on it? Oh, let's show this, but it's making people more aware of it, in which hey, it could eventually end up being that, hey, your washing machine has noticed that you start doing heavier loads and this and that. These are the best times for you to do this, that kind of thing. It's an interesting thing, which I think folks are going to start understanding, how at times how habit driven we are. And
I know this embrace the idea of data sharing. There's still all these privacy concerns, so I think the tech world is definitely pushing for this Internet of Things, but the general public needs to accept the idea that they're going to have a lot of devices that are giving metrics back to somebody. That's
if anything, you remember when things like at least in the Northeast, you had Easy Pass that came along, in which all it is just an RFID tag. And a lot of people put up a big stink about it, Reason being was that, oh, they're tracking when we're coming and going, or oh, the bigger conspiracy theory was always, oh, if I go from exit 7 to exit 8 and I make it in 5 minutes and anything, they're gonna automatically issue me a speeding ticket. Did that ever happen?
That happened to my brother in Orlando.
Really?
Yeah, outside Orlando.
Man.
Yeah, he made it between 2 points too fast and paid the toll and the ticket. He said he learned to
all right.
stop at the McDonald's on the way.
Well, all I can say is, up in New Jersey, we definitely don't. That has never been enforced to my knowledge, mostly because I've made it down to Central Jersey, down to practically Cherry Hill in half an hour. So not that I was speeding, but I definitely wasn't. I was definitely enforcing my lead foot.
Yeah.
So, but it's one of those things. Like initially, everyone was like, "Oh my gosh, I'll be able to track you," and then cell phones came along. Oh my gosh, everyone's be able to track you. Well, guess what? Everyone gives out information, whether they realize it or not. I mean, it's one of those things. You're right in that. People have to understand that your habits, your habits, the things you do, the actual transactions that you do, they're all going to be tracking because it's marketing data, it's analytical data, and folks want that information because it's part of how do we make a better product, or how do we get this to where folks will go for column A versus column B.
Yeah.
As I say, I've gotten on my soapbox for a minute here, Ernie.
Okay, well, we laughed when we started putting some AV equipment on the network, and why are we doing that? I remember really having a good laugh when I first saw a daylight screen with a network port on it. I said, what are you going to do with that? What data are you going to get back from your screen, or what are you going to do? But we're actually polling screens, asking them if they're up or down now.
Oh, so it wasn't like the Simpsons bit. Screen goes up, screen goes down, screen goes up. No.
Well, but I mean, we can now, if we get in a situation where we have a whiteboard behind a screen, and someone says, I want to use the whiteboard, we can say, is the screen up or down? Not send a false up that you don't need. Just say, where are you right now?
That's true. It's a good point with that.
And there's now no more of this, did I turn the oven off when you get 30 minutes away from home? You pull out your iPhone, hit a button, oven's off, garage door is closed, alarm is set.
Yeah. Well, remember back in the day when it was,
you're not the driver to be checking, but
back when we started throwing everything, all the AV equipment on the network, I don't think higher ups really realized how useful it was until we could pull reports and say to them, look, we're putting in all these, VCRs, and they're being used for like 5 minutes a semester, so maybe we should pull them out. Things like that. It's like, oh, all of a sudden it's worth it to put it all on the network and be able to pull all these stats and monitor everything. No,
if anything, with GV, we actually so we actually had to put in a lab for our chemistry department, and we looked at everything and said, oh, we're going to pull equipment from this room, and the the psychology department threw an absolute fit, and they said, no, we need this room, we use it all the time. And we went into GV and checked the lamp hours. Lamp hours all have accounted for 2 hours, which I'm pretty sure at least one of them was for testing. So we're like, you guys have never used this room. So it's so part of the IoT thing, it's
on a small
using
scale,
analytics. Well, it's using it's using analytics to justify the point and everything. So that being said, we are actually at a time here. Mr. Ernie, where can folks reach you at?
Folks can find me on LinkedIn. So
okay,
best way.
Fair enough. Mr. Tomei?
Yeah, LinkedIn's a good spot, but as always, my my website is best. It's tomeav.com. It's TOMEIAV.com.
All right. And I'm Bill O'Donnell. You can find me on Twitter as well as LinkedIn. So there you go.
Okay.
Great.
Now wrap it up.
Okay. There you go. Sorry about that. And that brings, as I say, that brings the show to an end. This is EdTech.